My name's Amy and I live in a caravan on the east coast of Australia. Recently, I've been renovating the exterior of my caravan, preparing the surface for a new coat of paint. In this episode, I thought I was going to be painting the caravan, but things didn't quite go to plan. So this is part 2 of a 3-part series. At the beginning of filming this video, I thought today was going to be the day that I'm actually going to paint the caravan. After a phone call to the paint company just then to just ask a few, technical questions, they've confirmed that today definitely isn't the sort of day that I should be painting the caravan. So basically what's happened is I was keeping a really close eye on the weather report for the last week. So in my last episode, you guys saw me preparing the exterior of the caravan in order to paint it. Then we had some rain, which prevented me from just painting it last week. And now it's the following week on the Thursday, and today there was like no chance of rain, beautiful weather, no wind or anything like that. So I thought, yep, that's the day. So yesterday, Wednesday, you saw me moving the caravan here. And today I've woken up planning to paint the van, but I've checked the weather report just out of curiosity to make sure. And the weather report has changed, and now we have a high chance of rain this afternoon and a thunderstorm because it is so humid and warm at the moment. I called the paint company and asked if I was to put the edge primer on, is it okay for that to get rained on within a certain amount of time afterwards? And the man basically explained to me that when you put the edge primer on, you really want to put the top coat on that edge primer between 2 and I think he said 12 hours after putting the edge primer on. So even if I got that done today, you wouldn't really want to wait until the next day or a couple of days later to do the top coat, because the primer, you'd have to prime again, he said. You need to have that primer coated within that window. And then when you put the top coat on, you have to make sure that the top coat doesn't get any rain or condensation on it for 24 hours. If it gets any kind of moisture on it, it can bead and damage the paint, because the top coat is actually a water-based paint. Anyway, I don't really understand all the technical side of it, but basically he said doesn't sound like today's the right weather. He also explained that you don't want to be painting the surface if it's, say, too hot to touch. So this right now feels good because it's in the shade, but the roof, as you saw earlier, is so hot. I had to actually have some of my cleaning cloths under my hands to be able to even maneuver on the roof. It was just way too hot to even sit on. So obviously the roof is not suitable for painting today. So this is all very frustrating because I was hoping in this episode I was going to be painting my caravan, but I might actually have to wait a couple more days or a week or so until we get, some better weather. He also explained that I'm probably best to get up really early in the morning and do the primer then and then paint it. But the problem was this morning when I got up, I woke up at about like 5:30 and the whole caravan and all the cars outside was covered in like morning dew. So my worry is even if I got up early to do it, it's not going to get the sun on it to dry off the morning dew until the sun's on it and then makes it too hot to paint. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to overcome that. I might have to move the caravan, I guess, from the shady area in the morning into the sun and then move it back into a shady area for painting. So it's the next day, and I'm going to catch you guys up on what's been happening over the last 24 hours. So when I last spoke to you guys, I had finished doing some work on the roof of the caravan, degreasing it and putting shellac over the silicone. And then I found out that we had a storm prediction yesterday afternoon and rain, which wasn't predicted earlier. There was actually 0 chance of rain when I decided to start that project on Thursday. But then the weather prediction changed, and of course I couldn't paint the caravan outside yesterday knowing that rain was going to come, especially after, as I mentioned previously, speaking to the paint manufacturer and how they said that the paint can't get wet at all for 24 hours after I paint it. So that got me really thinking about how living in this, subtropical climate here, it's very unlikely that we have a complete zero chance of rain ever. There's always a possibility, especially this time of the year, which is not ideal for painting a caravan outside, but I'm doing it anyway. It made me realize that I really do need a shelter or something over the caravan. So even if there is, it looks like it's not going to rain, if it does, even if there's a really small chance, it's still protected once I've painted it. So I spent yesterday afternoon brainstorming ways that I could create a shelter over the caravan. I looked at hiring like a marquee from an event hire place to put over it. I looked at buying a marquee, but a lot of those options weren't really going to be suitable for a number of different reasons. So in the end, I decided to buy a really big tarp. I've tied each corner to 4 different trees really high, and my plan is to park the caravan underneath the tarp. Firstly, it'll stop leaves from landing on the caravan. It'll reduce the temperature of the metal as well, which will make it more suitable for actually painting the surface, because being out in the sun, if the surface is too hot to touch, you're not supposed to paint it. And then also, if there is a chance of rain and we get a slight sprinkle, I'll be okay because the van's not going to get wet. But of course, I still need to choose a day that has a low chance of rain, especially no storm prediction, because if we got a storm, we've got wind and rain will just blow and leaves will blow underneath the tarp, of course. So installing this tarp has been pretty challenging. It's very big and heavy, and I've had to use a very dodgy ladder to climb up high into the trees to be able to actually tie each corner up. I think I'm nearly there. It's sagging in the middle, of course, which you guys will see, but my plan there is to just put a really tall ladder in the center of the caravan roof, which will point up, and then the water, if it hits it, will be able to pool down and run off the sides. It's not ideal because obviously I'm painting the roof. I don't want to have a ladder on there, but I have got a way to work around that, which I'll show you when I get to it later on, when I get to painting the van. But right now I'm just going to tie this corner of the tarp up a little bit higher and hopefully reduce the sag in this tarp a little bit more. But yeah, that's what's happening today. So this is the trickiest tree to climb up because there's not really anywhere that's stable to lean this ladder. Not to make you guys nervous or anything watching me do this. When I do climb up though, I make sure that I'm not solely depending on the ladder, and that I'm actually holding onto the tree as well, so that if something happened to the ladder, I would also, just be hanging onto the tree. It's a pretty difficult bit to climb up. It's definitely not ideal. Maybe you make it a bit more vertical. That's much better. Okay, let's give it a shake and a twist. So before I climb up, I'm like bending, moving it around to see if it's moving at all. And yeah, just not totally trusting it. Holding onto the tree. I also am really scared of heights, so this is not fun for me. So basically what I've got to do here is just pull this up as high as I can physically make it go. Now the tarp's pretty heavy. I don't even know if you guys can see me. Now, maybe if we put that over there, I feel like a bit of a sailor pulling all these ropes. Really hurts your hands. I should be wearing gloves, but I don't have any. Okay, I'm gonna actually climb down and then, oh, that's in the way. Maybe that's why. So right now, I can't pull the tarp physically myself up here any more than I have. It should come up a bit more though. I just tied my own little creative knot and then it's all the way really high up on like a strong part of the tree, and then I just come down and tied it there. So this is what we're looking like. It's definitely, I mean, the camera's making this look like it's sagging more than it is, to be honest. There's the other corner there. If there was more trees, I could connect these ones to lift it up more, but there's nowhere to do that. So that's the Caravan obviously up there in the background. So I think in the middle where it is sagging, that will have to be lifted up, because I think that'll just be nearly touching the Caravan roof. But all the corners are really high. I think that this is probably going to work, but we will see once I move the Caravan. It might be stuck to that like yesterday.
You're supposed to pull it up as you lift it.
Oh, I just did it. Yesterday I had to move, like just literally take the handbrake off so it would go.
Tension.
Boom. Yeah. I'm trying to make this really high because the Caravan's like that at the moment. I don't know how much weight you're technically supposed to put on the jockey wheel. Okay, brakes on. This weird thing, I don't even know what that is. I think that you release that when you're towing it, but it also, I don't really know what it does. I think it stops it from being able to move around, like go backwards or something. How's the tilt of the van looking?
It's getting pretty level.
How much more?
A fair bit more.
Fuck. I don't know if it just snapped.
Get your feet, you should have your feet away from it then.
Is it level enough now?
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this episode. Fingers crossed in my next one I'll be bringing this vintage Caravan back to life.